All my life, I've been a global traveller, seeking cultures and traditions that are just as vibrant today as in times past. We're opening doors, stepping into worlds most never see. Because that's where the best stories are. We're sharing tales of local life and the working world, plus spending time with some of the most interesting people you'd ever want to meet. It's truly privileged access that always leaves me excited to explore more. In this special episode of Exploring More with Karine, we're going behind closed doors at Viking for a glimpse into the world of Viking film production, which now includes about 250 cultural insight short films, many of them even award-winning. The filming and production of these films started a little over 10 years ago when Viking's management team decided that printed materials are nice, and so are pretty pictures on websites, but that we could and should actually offer our guests more to help them decide and prepare for their journeys around the world. We all agreed that with broadband then becoming more prevalent, we could send short cultural insight videos to guests based on the itineraries they were sailing. But before we could start filming, we needed a host, and it was decided that we didn't want to lock ourselves to a paid spokesperson who really didn't have anything to do with our brand, but that we should be able to find someone capable in-house. And somehow that ended up being me. Though a very, very reluctant me for several reasons. First, I've always been uncomfortable in front of the camera, and that was just for photographs. Film elevated my fear to an entirely new level. And secondly, I grew up with a complex about my speech. My mother always told me I didn't enunciate clearly enough, and my father always claimed I had a lisp. So I didn't know if I'd be able to communicate in an engaging enough manner for anyone to actually want to watch. But the film team who we were going to work with, Bill and Brad, convinced me that my articulation was just fine and that my lisp would just become some sort of a signature. And any self-doubt about my storytelling abilities I need not have, as Brad promised he would never let me look bad nor sound uninteresting. Which means that I now know what the term movie magic means. So it was with a great deal of trepidation, but an equally great deal of trust in Bill and Brad, plus a condition of mine that we start filming in Russia, as that was the part of the world that I knew very well and loved sharing with people. So I agreed to give it a go. And it didn't take long until we had lots of positive feedback from guests thanking us for giving them the ability to experience Russia in a way they otherwise wouldn't have. And I clearly remember the first people I met who'd benefited from these short films. It was a mother and a daughter who'd travelled with us on waterways of the Tsars and had watched all our videos, including the one on Russian superstitions and the one on Russian foods. So when they came to Russia, it happened to be lilac blossoming season, and at the Field of Mars, they'd stopped at a lilac tree, found one with the requisite amount of petals, and eaten it for luck, as the locals do. Later that evening, they'd ventured onto a restaurant all on their own and had felt very brave for it, and ordered what we'd showed on our Russian foods videos, food they would otherwise never have either been interested in or dared try, and they loved it. They had done what the locals do, and they felt they had a better feel for the Russian people for it. And this gave us all the faith that providing guests with these types of cultural insights before they travelled makes the journey that much richer when on travel. So when we film around the world, the team spends every waking hour together, so it's important that we all get along. It's also important that we represent Viking values well to the outside world. And as our chairman, my father, Tor, likes to say, the three important human qualities are to be kind, to be honest, and to be hardworking. Bill and Brad are without a doubt the kindest, most honest and hardworking people I know. And I believe that doors open to us around the world when we're filming because people want to welcome and be helpful to good people. And Bill and Brad are truly good people who I am so proud to have by my side as colleagues at work and sort of adopted older brothers in life. On the road, we have a tightly managed schedule, but we're also flexible enough to seize the moment to change the schedule should we come across something more interesting than what had been planned. And for my role in developing experiences for our guests, the obvious benefit that I'm part of the film team is that if something is interesting to the lens, interesting to film and to storytell, it's likely to be an interesting experience for our guests as well. So our annual film shoots often become as much excursion development. One such experience was when we learned about truffles and how in the Périgord region in France, dogs were being trained to sniff them out, as the traditional pigs, we were told, would often consume much of what they found, which would leave little to sell. So we found that fascinating, filmed a story, which then turned into one of our highest rated excursions on our Bordeaux itinerary. As many of you know, speaking of dogs, I'm blessed to have a very special dog in my life, not to sniff truffles, but to share love. Finse was given to me as a tiny puppy by my close friend Fiona, the Countess of Carnarvon, who's also a very kind, honest, hardworking person. Fiona felt I should commit my life to something living, not just work all the time. So that's how I ended up with Finse. Finse has been on many road trips with us when we've been filming and is a bit of everyone's angel. Her first shoot was in Croatia when I had to get on a smaller oyster boat and I had to leave her in a larger boat. So if you watch that segment and listen carefully, you might hear her whimpering in the background. I think Brad thought our film shoots would be ruined forever once Finse appeared, but she fast learned what quiet on the set means and just disappears under a table, sort of like she does now. Or out of frame, she just disappears. She even, believe it or not, accompanies me to sound studios when I narrate itinerary videos. Right there in the booth with me, and she doesn't make a sound. She's an integral part of the Viking family, and we are all blessed to have her. On all shoots, we have a stills photographer, and Alistair, who you might know from In Conversations with Tuesdays on Viking.TV, is our man. A memory which is seared in my mind is an evening pretty precisely a year before the naming of the Viking Star in Bergen, where we were filming cultural insights to the history and food culture of Norway. And one remarkable lady who we interviewed was the mayor of Bergen, Trude Drevland. After meeting her, everyone on team agreed that she would make a fantastic godmother of our first ocean ship. And shouldn't we have her instead of the rather well-known actress who, for some reason, had made it to the top of our shortlist? At a dinner that night with Trude, Alistair tried to discreetly snap some shots and disappeared. To which Trude, in true Trude style, said, "Is that your photographer? I think I could eat him with a spoon." This comment, which of course really was a compliment, has stuck with Alistair for nearly 10 years, and I'm sure will for the rest of his life, every time any of us are around him and spoons. And this is one of many such comments that endeared Trude to so many, and sometimes I expect also gets her into a bit of trouble. So we've had some fun teasing Alistair about that moment. When photographing for marketing materials, we also have models, or talent as they're referred to, with us. And talent have wardrobes that need to be organized. And Gary from New York is the man for that. But he is so much more. One of the more interesting conversationalists on our long journeys by minivan. He's also a fixer for whom almost nothing is impossible. Once at the Blue Mosque in Istanbul, we were waiting for the chief imam who I was going to interview, but we needed the man who was vacuum cleaning the main carpet to finish first. I suggested, sort of jokingly, to Gary that perhaps I help out to get the job done faster, which Gary thought was a good idea. So he disappeared for a minute and returned with a big smile on his face, unlocked the latch gate to the main floor, which during prayer is only allowed for men, and let me help vacuum the main floor of the Blue Mosque. In a culture so different from the one we come from, a little experience like that and a nice big hug from the man who was doing the vacuuming, I think showed both the local people and the man who was in charge of cleaning and ourselves who were there to learn more about their culture, that as members of the human race, we have so much more in common than in difference. And though we may have different cultures, we should celebrate those differences. It is, after all, that which makes this world such an interesting place. Our long road trips have created lifelong friendships with drivers around the world as well, and in particular Sebastiano, who's taken us all around Italy and who has the most amazing, uncanny knack of squeezing his minivan through Roman arches that shouldn't be able to fit even a Fiat. So we have had a lot of laughs with him. Though Brad doesn't really eat anything but seeds, both cars and people do need refueling sometimes. And though our frequent petrol station grab-and-go sandwiches are edible, Bill's backpack is always preferable, packed with healthy and delicious treats from Seattle, with the guaranteed standard fare of dark chocolate-covered coffee beans, which keeps our energy levels high. We probably work 18-hour days while filming to get the most material we can. So at the end of a shoot, we are usually quite exhausted. It's been a tradition to celebrate with a group shot, the photographic kind, of course, plus a boy band pose, as we've called it, with whichever boys have been part of that shoot. Often accompanied by a celebratory glass of Bellini, apricot juice with a bit of bubbly. And then it's back to real office work for me on product development and back to Seattle for Bill and Brad to edit everything together. Brad reminds me from time to time that no one in this entire world has listened to my voice as much as he has, both from editing footage from shoots as well as the hundreds of itinerary videos I've narrated in studio. Poor Brad is all I can say, although he must have found a way to edit out my lisps, as they seem to have almost disappeared. Or they may have been buried into the musical accompaniments to each segment. It is remarkable how much a piece of music both probably disguises my lisp as well as changes the segment feel when there is appropriate music to it. And Bill has an uncanny knack of finding just the right piece for the segment, be it the ethereal sounds for the polar regions, to high-spirited happy music for the high-spirited Shetland ponies, to classical sounds of nature for Scandinavia, or more exotic music for the lands further afield. Another production Bill and Brad are responsible for are the Viking resident historian lectures. Those are shot in a more confined environment, inside a studio with green screen and with less things that can go wrong. Our chief resident historians, Paul and Charles, have spent long days presenting our iconic lectures to camera, shedding light on milestones in world history to help us understand the present better. These filmed lectures supplement the live lectures on board and are shared with guests on river and ocean ships as in-cabin enrichment. During this pandemic period the world has been living through, the Viking resident historian lectures have become very useful content, of course, to share on Viking.TV. And Paul and Charles have done a stellar job every Tuesday for many months in the beginning, taking your questions for the lecture of the day live. And cliched as it sounds, Viking really is one virtual family. A family of us who are employed by Viking and you, our guests, who we have the privilege of working for. One branch of this big virtual family of Vikings is the film team I've been describing in the past few minutes. So tight has this team become that when Alistair and my best friend Chi were married some years ago, the only guests they wanted at the wedding were the dozen or so of us who worked together on our film productions. Plus my father, who was going to give Chi away, or at least so she thought. We'd actually located the Norwegian captain who saved her life when she almost drowned on a small fishing vessel fleeing Vietnam when she was 12 years old. So we'd found him, and as a surprise, he showed up to give her away instead. But that's a story I'll share with you another time if you're interested. Just how close are we? Well, Bill, who can officiate wedding ceremonies, wed Alistair and Chi, and Brad was best man, handsomely dressed in a Norwegian national costume, as was I in my bunad, and I was the maid of honor. Paul and Charles, the Viking resident historians, were there, as was James, who actually makes everything happen behind the scenes on Viking.TV and also launched Viking.TV with me at the beginning of the pandemic. We are a family, a subset of the very large Viking family we consider our other colleagues as well as guests to be. And perfectionists, as Bill and Brad are, things don't always go as planned. And for the next 10 minutes or so, we'll give you some giggles with cutouts over the years of mainly me messing up and some other fun clips, but probably more funny to those of us who were there at the time. But nonetheless, a bit of lightheartedness, I think, might be healthy during these times. From learning how to waltz in Vienna, to teaching my new learned skill to Father Pius in the apricot orchard at Göttweg Abbey, from picking the lemons of Monsignor Andreatta's rooftop garden in Rome, to getting my ingredients wrong when making limoncello in Sorrento, from a freezing cold Berlin to Brad and Bill almost melting in a Russian banya. The experiences we've had together are a privilege to have had. And though what you're about to see are a few outtakes, the finished product, of course, is quite professional, and almost 250 cultural insight short films of about 3 to 10 minutes are on exploringmore.com or findable through Viking.TV for you. So just because it's difficult to travel around the world right now, we can do so virtually and be better informed and prepared for when we can get back to exploring the world for real, in comfort and together. So we hope you enjoy. And by the way, I'm my own camera person today, as you might have guessed, and it is not even a camera. I'm filming this to you on an iPad, so Bill and Brad, please forgive me for letting your high standards down. Anyway, we hope you enjoy some giggles. Bye for now.
And action.
Okay. Good.
I hate horseradish.
Come on, Layla, here. Oh, look at that.
Ben, melt it a little bit, actually quite fast. It's hot enough. Shall we start again?
This is a North Atlantic salmon, like all in Norway.
She died on the toilet.
And you know what?
Oh, we see.
I'm actually vegetarian. And I can still tell you that it's tasty.
You're joking.
No.
The pen! It won't stop
Boiling?
smoking. Somebody didn't clean their pans properly.
Yeah. No, it's just there's something in between.
I'm not showing any nipples, am I?
No.
Hi, Karina.
Too much limoncello.
So? Yeah. Sure, little. And it doesn't open. No, maybe 3 times. Oh, that's heavy.
Because you have particularly
Stop.
Why does his love character have to be so complicated?
It looks sort of a little bit green.
What are oysters good for?
For making babies.
Rolling. Okay, I'll stop. I'll keep rolling.
Okay, yes. Okay, yeah. He's cleaning the plate with gin.
Big building there with those big windows.
Yes, you have to move backwards. You have to move back, I'll push him.
There are
And in the morning, it's damn good.
It's damn good in the morning. You are a real Viking. You have the Viking DNA. You have a contraction in your hand. Dupuytren syndrome. He's a Viking. Truly, he's got it. Han är viking! Okay, I'm getting the hang of this.
yes, you're strong also.
Yeah, I'm a Viking. Well, that didn't really work out, did it? It was...
Mark it!
Sorry, the monkey's making faces.
Closer to you. Something really interesting.
The shrimp starts its life as a male and ends its life as a female.
Maybe it should be like that for everyone.
I can't do that.
Looks nice, looks nice. Oh, look at that second rider. What a genius.
Silknaya. Silknaya? I thought that meant softer.
Okay.
Куда же ближе?
How can we get closer? I've in my past thought of becoming a nun, actually.
You are still in time.
Yeah, I'm still... Hold on. Wind. Who's on wrinkle patrol? And the Vespa, you can hold on to somebody nice.
It's a romantic.
Yeah, even if I don't know the person so well. But,
Yes.
I'm gonna blush. Let's see. Oh yeah, this is not so difficult.
No, you see?
You just have to have the right man. Having a foot massage in China is a must. I don't like this kind of thing. And that's it for now.